What the hell is this? Clinical sociologist might do. I didn't actually read this entire page yet. Have I? Ugh. Oh, my fucking eyeballs are hurting. Jesus Christ.
Adams and other pioneering female sociologists commonly combine intellectual inquiry, social service work, and political activism, all with the goal of assisting the underprivileged and creating a more egalitarian society. For example, working with the black journalist and educator Ida Wells Barnett, Adams successfully prevented racial segregation in the Chicago public schools. Adams's efforts to establish a juvenile court system and women's trade union reveal the practical focus of her work. Adams 1910, 1930, Deacon 1991, Len and Robbie Bradley 1998. Robert Burton, sociologist Robert Burton, 1910 to 2003, made an important contribution to the discipline by successfully combining theory and research. Born to Slavic immigrant parents in Philadelphia, Merton won a scholarship to Temple University. He continued his studies at Harvard, where he acquired his lifelong interest in sociology. Merton's teaching career was based at Columbia University. Merton, 1968, produced a theory that is one of the most frequently cited explanations of deviant behavior. He noted different ways in which people attempt to achieve success in life. In his view, some may deviate from the socially approved goal of accumulating material goods or the socially accepted means of achieving that goal. For example, in Merton's classification scheme, innovators are people who accept the goal of pursuing material wealth but use illegal means to do so, including robbery, burglary, and extortion. Although Merton based his explanation of crime on individual behavior that has been influenced by society's approved goals and means, it has wider applications. His theory helps to account for the high crime rates among the nation's poor, who may see no hope of advancing themselves through traditional roads to success. Merton also emphasized that sociology should strive to bring together the macro-level and micro-level approaches to the study of society. Macro-sociology concentrates on large-scale phenomena or entire civilizations. He modeled Durkheim's cross-cultural study of suicide as an example of macro-level research. More recently, macro-sociologists have examined international crime rates and the stereotype of Asian Americans as a model minority. In contrast, micro-sociology stresses the study of small groups, often through experimental means. Sociological research on the micro level has included studies of how diverse men and women disengage from significant social roles and of how a teacher's expectations can affect a student's academic performance. Pierre Bourdieu. Increasingly, scholars in the United States have been drawing on the insights of sociologists in other countries. The ideas of the French sociologist Pierre Bourdieu, 1930 to 2002, have found a broad following in North America and elsewhere. As a young man, Bourdieu did fieldwork in Algeria during its struggle for independence from France. Today, scholars study Bourdieu's research techniques as well as his conclusions. Bourdieu wrote about how capital in its many forms sustains individuals and families from one generation to the next. To Bourdieu, capital included not just material goods, but cultural and social assets. Cultural capital refers to non-economic goods, such as family background and education, which are reflected in a knowledge of language and the arts. Not necessarily book knowledge, cultural capital refers to the kind of education that is valued by the socially elite. Though a knowledge of Chinese cuisine is culture, for example, it is not the prestigious kind of culture that is valued by the elite. In the United States, immigrants, especially those who arrived in large numbers and settled in ethnic enclaves, have generally taken 2 or 3 generations to develop the same level of cultural capital enjoyed by more established groups. In comparison, social capital refers to the collective benefit of social networks, which are built on reciprocal trust. Much has been written about the importance of family and friendship networks in providing people with an opportunity to advance. In his emphasis on cultural and social capital, Bourdieu's work extends the insights of early social thinkers such as Marx and Weber, Bourdieu and Passers in 1990, Bourdieu 2011. Today, sociology reflects the diverse contributions of earlier theorists. As sociologists approach such topics as divorce, drug addiction, and religious cults, they can draw on the theoretical insights of the discipline's pioneers. A careful reader can hear Comte, Durkheim, Weber, Marx, Dubois, Goulet, Adams, and many others speaking through the Module 1 with sociology and how did it develop? 13. Pages of current research. Sociology has also broadened beyond the intellectual confines of North America and Europe. Contributions to the discipline now come from sociologists studying and researching human behavior in other parts of the world. Double consciousness, the division of an individual's identity into two or more social realities. Ideal type, a construct or model for evaluating specific cases. Macrosociology, sociological investigation that concentrates on large-scale phenomena or entire civilizations. Microsociology, sociological investigation that stresses the study of small groups, often through experimental means. Natural science, the study of the physical features of nature and the ways in which they interact and change. Science, the body of knowledge obtained by methods based on systematic observation. Social capital, the collective benefit of social networks, which are built on reciprocal trust. Social science, the study of the social features of humans and the ways in which they interact and change. Sociological imagination and awareness of the relationship between an individual and the wider society, both today and in the past. Sociology, the scientific study of social behavior and human groups. Theory in sociology, a set of statements that seeks to explain problems, actions, or behavior. Tversky had determined word for understanding or insight. Use low 2 to 1 functionalist perspective. Think of society as a living organism in which each part of the organism contributes to its survival. This view is the functionalist perspective, which emphasizes the way in which the parts of a society are structured to maintain its stability. In examining any aspect of society, then, functionalists emphasize the contribution that it makes to overall social stability. Talcott Parsons, 1902 to 1979, a Harvard University sociologist, was a key figure in the development of functionalist theory. Parsons was greatly influenced by the work of Emile Durkheim, Max Weber, and other European sociologists. For more than 4 decades, he dominated sociology in the United States with his advocacy of functionalism. Parsons saw any society as a vast network of connected parts, each of which helps to maintain the SYSTEM as a whole. His approach, carried forward by German sociologist Nicholas Luhmann, 1927 to 1998, holds that if an aspect of social life does not contribute to a society's stability or survival, if it does not serve some identifiably useful function or promote value consensus among members of society, it will not be passed on from one generation to the next. Joes and Nobel 2009, Knudsen 2010. Let's examine an example of a functionalist perspective. Many Americans have difficulty understanding the hidden prohibition against slaughtering cows, specifically, zebu. Cattle browse unhindered through Indian street markets, helping themselves to oranges and mangoes while people bargain for the little food they can afford. What explains this devotion to the cow in the face of human deprivation, a devotion that appears to be dysfunctional? The simple explanation is that cow worship is highly functional in Indian society, according to economists, agronomists, and social scientists who have studied the matter. Cows perform 2 essential tasks, plowing the fields and producing milk. If eating beef were permitted, hungry families might be tempted to slaughter their cows for immediate consumption, leaving themselves without a means of cultivation. Cows also produce dung, which doubles as a fertilizer and a fuel for cooking. Finally, cow meat sustains the neediest group in society, the Dalit, or untouchables, who sometimes resort to eating beef in secrecy. If eating beef were socially acceptable, higher status Indians would no doubt give up its price, placing it beyond the reach of the hungriest. Cows, zebu, traditionally considered sacred in India, wander freely through the city, respected by all who encounter them. The sanctity of the cow is still functional in India, where plowing, milking, and fertilizing are far more important to subsistence farmers than a diet that includes beef. Manifest and latent functions. A college catalog typically states various functions of the institution. It may inform you, for example, that the university intends to offer each student a broad education in classical and contemporary thought, in the humanities, in the sciences, and in the arts. However, it would be quite a surprise to find a catalog that declared, this university was founded in 1895 to assist people in finding a marriage partner. No college catalog can declare this as the purpose of the university. Yet societal institutions serve many functions, some of them quite subtle. The university, in fact, does facilitate main selection. Robert Merton, 1968, made an important distinction between manifest and latent functions. Manifest functions of institutions are open, stated, and conscious functions. They involve the intended, recognized consequences of an aspect of society, such as the university's role in certifying academic competence and excellence. In contrast, latent functions are unconscious or unintended functions that may reflect hidden purposes of an institution. One latent function of universities is to hold down unemployment. Another is to serve as a meeting ground for people seeking marital partners. 16 Chapter 1 Understanding Sociology. Dysfunctions. Functionalists acknowledge that not all parts of a society contribute to its stability all the time. A dysfunction refers to an element or process of a society that may actually disrupt the social system or reduce its stability. We view many dysfunctional behavior patterns, such as homicide, as undesirable. Yet we should not automatically interpret them in this way. The evaluation of a dysfunction depends on one's own values, or as the saying goes, on where you sit. For example, the official view in prisons in the United States is that inmate gangs should be eradicated because they are dysfunctional to smooth operations. Yet some guards have come to view prison gangs as a functional part of their jobs. The danger posed by gangs creates a threat to security, requiring increased surveillance and more overtime work for guards, as well as requests for special staffing to address gang problems. G. Scott 2001. Low 2 to 1 conflict perspective. Where functionalists see stability and consensus, complex sociologists see a social world in continual struggle. The conflict perspective assumes that social behavior is best understood in terms of tension between groups over power or the allocation of resources, including housing, money, access to services, and political representation. The tension between competing groups need not be violent. It can take the form of labor negotiations, party politics, competition between religious groups for new members, or disputes over the federal budget. Throughout most of the 1900s, the functionalist perspective had the upper hand in sociology in the United States. However, the conflict approach has become increasingly persuasive since the late 1960s. The widespread social unrest resulting from battles over civil rights, bitter divisions over the war in Vietnam, the rise of the feminist and gay liberation movements, the Watergate political scandal, urban riots, confrontations at abortion clinics, and shrinking economic prospects for the middle class have offered support for the conflict approach of view that are social. The world is characterized by continual struggle between competing groups. Currently, the discipline of sociology accepts conflict theory as one valid way to gain insight into a society. The Marxist view. As we saw earlier, Karl Marx viewed struggle between social classes as inevitable, given the exploitation of workers that he perceived under capitalism. Expanding on Marx's work, sociologists and other social scientists have come to see conflict not merely as a class phenomenon but as a part of everyday life in all societies. In studying any culture, organization, or social group, sociologists want to know who benefits, who suffers, and who dominates at the expense of others. They are concerned with the conflicts between women and men, parents and children, cities and suburbs, whites and blacks, to name only a few. Conflict theorists are interested in how societies work like these tattoos suggest to a Marxist theorist. Sociologists who take the Marxist view ask who benefits, who suffers, and who dominates. Module 2 Major Theoretical Perspective 17. Ida Wells Barnett explored what it meant to be female and black in the United States. Her work established her as one of the earliest feminist theorists. Institutions including the family, government, religion, education, and the media may help to maintain the privileges of some groups and keep others in a subservient position. Their emphasis on social change and the redistribution of resources makes conflict theorists more radical and activist than functionalists. They're 1959. The feminist perspective. Sociologists began embracing the feminist perspective only in the 1970s, although it has a long tradition in many other disciplines. The feminist perspective sees inequity in gender as central to all behavior and organization. Because it focuses clearly on one aspect of inequality, it is often allied with the conflict perspective. Proponents of the feminist view tend to focus on the macro level, just as conflict theorists do. Drawing on the work of Marx and Engels, contemporary feminist theorists often view women's subordination as inherent in capitalist societies. Some radical feminist theorists, however, view the oppression of women as inevitable in all male-dominated societies, whether capitalist, socialist, or communist. An early example of this perspective, long before the label came into use by sociologists, can be seen in the life and writings of Ida Wells Barnett, 1862 to 1931. Following her groundbreaking publications in the 1890s on the practice of lynching black Americans, she became an advocate in the women's rights campaign, especially the struggle to win the vote for women. Like feminist theorists who succeeded her, Wells Barnett used her analysis of society as a means of resisting oppression. In her case, she researched what it meant to be black, a woman in the United States, and a black woman in the United States, Giddings 2008, Wells Barnett 1970. Queer theory. Traditionally, sociologists and other researchers have assumed that men and women are heterosexual. They either ignored other sexual identifications or treated them as abnormal. Yet as French social theorist Michel Foucault, 1978, has pointed out, what is regarded as normal or even acceptable human sexuality varies dramatically from one culture to another, as well as from one time period to another. Today, in queer theory, sociologists have moved beyond narrow assumptions to study sexuality in all its forms. Historically, the word queer was used in a derogatory manner, to stigmatize a person or behavior. Beginning in the early 1970s, however, gay and lesbian activists began to use the word as a term of empowerment. They dismissed the notion of heterosexuality as the only normal form of sexuality, along with the belief that people must be either heterosexual or homosexual. Instead, they recognized multiple sexual identities, including bisexuality. Queer theory is the study of society from the perspective of a broad spectrum of sexual identities, including heterosexuality, homosexuality, and bisexuality. Low 2-to-1 interactionist perspective. Workers interacting on the job, encounters in public places like bus stops and parks, behavior in small groups, all these aspects of microsociology catch the attention of interactionists. Whereas functionalist and conflict theorists both analyze large-scale, society-wide patterns of behavior, theorists who take the interactionist perspective generalize about everyday forms of social interaction in order to explain society as a whole. Today, given rising concern over the cost and availability of gas, interactionists have begun to study a form of commuter behavior called slugging. To avoid driving to work, commuters gather at certain pre-appointed places to seek rides from complete strangers. When the driver pulls into the parking area or vacant lot and announces his destination, the first slug in line who is headed for that destination jumps in. Rules of etiquette have emerged to smooth the social interaction between driver and passenger. Neither the driver nor the passenger may eat or smoke. The slug may not adjust the windows or radio or talk on a cell phone. The presence of the slugs, who get a free ride, may allow the driver to use. Interactionism, also referred to as symbolic interactionism, is a sociological framework in which human beings are viewed as living in a world of meaningful objects. Those objects may include material things, actions, other people, relationships, and even symbols. Interactionists see symbols as an especially important part of human communication, thus the term symbolic interactionism. Symbols have a shared social meaning that is understood by all members of a society. In the United States, for example, a salute symbolizes respect, while a clenched fist signifies defiance. Another culture might use different gestures to convey a feeling of respect or defiance. These types of symbolic interaction are classified as forms of nonverbal communication, which can include many other gestures, facial expressions, and postures. Masuda et al. 2008. Manipulation of symbols can be seen in dress codes. Schools frown on students who wear clothes displaying messages that appear to endorse violence or drug and alcohol consumption. Businesses stipulate the entire employees are allowed to wear on the job in order to impress their customers or clients. In 2005, the National Basketball Association, NBA, adopted a new dress code for the athletes who play professional basketball, one that involved not the uniforms they wear on court, but the clothes they wear off court on league business. The code requires business casual attire when players are representing the league. Indoor sunglasses, chains, and sleeveless shirts are specifically banned. Crow and Herman 2005 823. While the functionalist and conflict approaches were initiated in Europe, interactionism developed first in the United States. George Herbert Mead, 1863 to 1931, is widely regarded as the founder of the interactionist perspective. Mead taught at the University of Chicago from 1893 until his death. As his teachings have become better known, sociologists have expressed greater interest in the interactionist perspective. Many have moved away from what may have been excessive preoccupation with the macro, large-scale level of social behavior and have redirected their attention toward behavior that occurs on the micro, small-scale level. Irving Goffman, 1922 to 1982, popularized a particular type of interactionist method known as the dramaturgical approach, in which people are seen as theatrical performers. The dramaturgist compares everyday life to the setting of the theater and stage. Just as actors project certain images, all of us seek to present particular features of our personalities while we hide other features. Thus, in class, we may feel the need to project a serious image. At a party, we may want to look relaxed and friendly. Low 222, the sociological approach. Which perspective should a sociologist use in studying human behavior? Functionalist, conflict, interactionist, feminist, queer theorist. We simply cannot squeeze all sociological thinking into 4 or 5 theoretical categories or even 10, if we include several other productive approaches. However, by studying the 3 major frameworks, we can better grasp how sociologists seek to explore social behavior. Table 1 to 2 summarizes these 3 broad approaches to sociological study. Although no one approach is correct by itself, and sociologists draw on all of them for various purposes, many sociologists tend to favor one particular perspective over others. A sociologist's theoretical orientation influences his or her approach to a research problem in important ways, including the choice of what to study, how to study it, and what questions to pose, or not to pose. Box 1-1, page 23, shows how researchers would study sports from different sociological perspectives. From the perspective of a police officer, how would having a conflict perspective of human behavior rather than a functionalist perspective affect the way you approach your duties in community policing? Study alert. The differences between them. Table 1 to 2. Major sociological perspectives tracking sociological perspectives. Functionalist. Conflict. Interactionist. View of society. Stable, well integrated. Characterized by tension and struggle between groups. Active in influencing and affecting everyday social interaction. Level of analysis emphasized. Macro. Macro. Micro. 5 of you draws on the work of Karl Marx and Friedrich Engels in that it often views WOM and subordination. The Center for Community Initiatives Magnolia Project, an example of applied sociology, aims to decrease high rates of infant mortality. Today, applied sociology is the use of the discipline of sociology with the specific intent of yielding practical applications for human behavior and organizations. By extension, Michael Burwell, 2005, in his presidential address to the American Sociological Association, endorsed what he called public sociology, encouraging scholars to engage a broader audience in bringing about positive outcomes. In effect, the applied sociologist reaches out to others and joins them in their efforts to better society. Often, the goal of applied or public sociology is to assist in resolving a social problem. For example, in the past 50 years, 8 presidents of the United States have established commissions to delve into major societal concerns facing our nation. Sociologists are often asked to apply their expertise to studying such issues as violence, pornography, crime, immigration, and population. In Europe, both academic and government research departments are offering increasing financial support for applied studies. One example of applied sociology is the growing interest in learning more about local communities. Since its founding in 1994, the Northeast Florida Center for Community Initiatives, CCI, based at the University of North Florida in Jacksonville, has conducted several community studies, including a homeless census and survey, an analysis of the economic impact of the arts in Jacksonville, and a long-term survey of the effects of Hurricane Katrina. Typical of applied sociology, these outreach efforts are collaborative, involving faculty, undergraduate and graduate students, volunteers, and community residents. Center for Community Initiatives 2012. Growing interest in applied sociology has led to such specializations as medical sociology and environmental sociology. The former includes research on how healthcare professionals and patients deal with disease. To give one example, medical sociologists have studied the social impact of the AIDS crisis on families, friends, and communities. Environmental sociologists examine the relationship between human societies and the physical environment. One focus of their work is the issue of environmental justice, raised by researchers and community activists. 22 Chapter 1 Understanding Sociology. Research today. We watch sports, talk sports, spend money on sports. Some of us live and breathe sports. Because sports occupy much of our time and directly or indirectly consume and generate a great deal of money, it should not be surprising that sports have sociological components that can be analyzed from various theoretical perspectives. In this section, we will look at sports from 5 major sociological perspectives. Functionalist view. In examining any aspect of society, functionalists emphasize the contribution it makes to overall social stability. Functionalists regard sports as an almost religious institution that uses ritual and ceremony to reinforce the common values of a society. For example, sports socialize young people into such values as competition and patriotism. Sports help to maintain people's physical well-being. Sports serve as a safety valve for both. Continued. Behavior is shaped by the distinctive norms, values, and demands of the world of sports. Sports. The growing popularity of applied sociology has led to the rise of the specialty of clinical sociology. Lewis Wirth, 1931, wrote about clinical sociology more than 75 years ago, but the term itself has become popular only in recent years. While applied sociology may simply evaluate social issues, clinical sociology is dedicated to facilitating change by offering social relationships, as in family therapy, or restructuring social institutions, as in the reorganization of a medical center. Applied sociologists generally leave it to policymakers to act on their evaluations. In contrast, clinical sociologists take direct responsibility for implementation and view those with whom they work as their clients. This specialty has become increasingly attractive to graduate students in sociology because it offers an opportunity to apply intellectual learning in a practical way. A shrinking job market in the academic world has made such alternative career routes appealing. Applied and clinical sociology can be contrasted with basic sociology, also called pure sociology, which seeks a more profound knowledge of the fundamental aspects of social phenomena. This type of research is not necessarily meant to generate specific applications, although such ideas may result once findings are analyzed. When Durkheim studied suicide rates, he was not primarily interested in discovering a way to eliminate suicide. In this sense, his research was an example of basic rather than applied sociology. Load 3-2 Developing a Sociological Imagination. In this book, we will be illustrating the sociological imagination in several different ways by showing theory and practice and in current research, by noting the ways in which electronic devices and apps are changing our social behavior, by thinking globally, by exploring the significance of social inequality, by speaking across race, gender, and religious boundaries, and by highlighting social policy throughout the world. Sociologists actively investigate a variety of issues and social behavior. We have already seen that research can shed light on the social factors that affect suicide rates. Sociological research often plays a direct role in improving people's lives, as in the case of increasing the participation of African Americans in diabetes testing. Throughout the rest of the book, the research performed by sociologists and other social scientists will shed light on group behavior of all types. Furthermore, whatever their theoretical perspective or research techniques, sociologists recognize that social behavior must be viewed in a global context. Globalization is the worldwide integration of government policies, cultures, social movements, and financial markets through trade and the exchange of ideas. Although public discussion. 24 Chapter 1 Understanding Sociology of globalization is relatively recent. Intellectuals have been pondering both its negative and positive social consequences for a long time. Karl Marx and Friedrich Engels warned in a Communist Manifesto, written in 1848, of a world market that would lead to production in distant lands, sweeping away existing working relationships. Today, developments outside the country are as likely to influence POPLE's lives as changes at home. For example, though much of the world was already in recession by September 2001, the terrorist attacks on New York and Washington, D.C. caused an immediate economic decline, not just in the United States, but throughout the world. One example of the massive global impact was the downturn in international tourism, which lasted for at least 2 years. The effects have been felt by people far removed from the United States, including African game wardens and Asian taxi drivers. Some observers see globalization and its effects as the natural result of advances in communications technology, particularly the internet and satellite transmission of the mass media. Others view it more critically, as a process that allows multinational corporations to expand unchecked. Social inequality. Who holds power? Who doesn't? Who has prestige? Who lacks it? Perhaps the major theme of analysis in sociology today is social inequality, a condition in which members of society have differing amounts of wealth, prestige, or power. For example, the disparity between what coffee bean pickers in developing nations are paid and the price you pay for a cup of coffee underscores global inequality. And the impact of Hurricane Katrina on residents of the Gulf Coast drew attention to social inequality in the United States. Predictably, the people who were hit the hardest by the massive storm were the poor, who had the greatest difficulty evacuating before the storm and have had the most difficulty recovering from it. Some sociologists, in seeking to understand the effects of inequality, have
I'm back.
Made the case for social justice. W.E.B. Du Bois, 1940-1968:14, noted that the greatest power in the land is not thought or ethics, but wealth. As we have seen, the contributions of Karl Marx, Jane Addams, and Ida Wells Barnett also stress this belief in the overarching significance of social inequality, and by extension, social justice. In this book, social inequality will be highlighted throughout. Speaking across race, gender, and religious boundaries. Sociologists include both men and women, who come from a variety of ethnic, national, and religious origins. In their work, sociologists seek to draw conclusions that speak to all people, not just the affluent or powerful. Doing so is not always easy. Insights into how a corporation can increase its profits tend to attract more attention and financial support than do, say, the merits of a needle exchange program for low-income inner-city residents. Yet today more than ever, sociology seeks to better understand the experiences of all people. Sociologists have noted, for example, that the huge tsunami that hit South Asia in 2004 affected men and women differently. When the waves hit, mothers and grandmothers were at home with the children, men were outside working, where they were more lovely. Today, both the positive and negative aspects of globalization are receiving increased scrutiny from sociologists. Module 3. Using Sociology 25. To become aware of the impending disaster. Moreover, most of the men knew how to swim, a survival skill that women in these traditional societies usually do not learn. As a result, many more men and women survived the catastrophe, about 10 men for every one woman. In one Indonesian village typical of the disaster area, 97 of 1,300 people survived, only 4 were women. The impact of this gender imbalance will be felt for some time, given WOMN's primary role as caregivers for children and the elderly. BBC News 2005. Read each question carefully and then select or provide the best answer. One community organization that aims to provide free preschool education for local families living below the poverty line is an example of apolitical sociology. B. Environmental sociology. C. Applied sociology. D. Basic sociology. Case study. The case of parenting options. Leslie Brown is a single parent of his study strategy. MU. 2. Sociological research. Sociology at work, market research. Module 4. What is the scientific method?
Am I done with this? What's
Scientific method.
happening?
Like all of us, sociologists are interested in
Bitch. Dedicated to facilitating change by altering social interaction. Drama. Mama. Drama. Mama. More profound knowledge. So this one. Globalization. Is it globalization? I don't know. Okay, there. Actually, it could be wealth. I think it was like wealth or something. Wealth. I don't even know why this matters. Power framework. Jesus Christ. Prepare, organize, work, evaluate, rethink. Oh, God. What the fuck? Is it just all of these? Oh my God. What the fuck? Oh, prepare step. Whatever, man. Prepare, evaluate. Jesus Christ. Prepare step. Read it. What is a start recharge? I'm not doing no fucking recharge. Who the fuck do you think I am? I ain't no doing no fucking recharge. Ooh! What is this? How many questions are there? Can I just say false? This is boring. Haha. I don't care, man. Ah! Whatever, close enough. I'm not doing this again. Fuck that shit. Alright, how much time did I waste? 46 minutes. I still have chemistry to do, which is annoying, or whatever. Oh my god, you can see everyone's picture. Boop. I look buzzed. What the hell? Did everyone do these assignments? Does it look like everyone did all these assignments? I don't know. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30. Oh, there's 30 of us. Is there 30 of us? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay, there's 30 of us. Sure. But wait, some of these people uploaded twice, so I think so. Let's see. Oh, whatever, man. I don't care. Okay. Homework 1. Go to Alex. Ugh. BRB. Why are all these fucking League of Legends? Should die! The awkwardness is so funny. Wait, something, let's go! Wait, something, let's talk! What got you? What the fuck is this? Oh, yo. I need to find myself a scientific calculator. Run! Oh! You don't need to run. Mimi. Can't say your friend like. That's so much. Mimi, Ursula. Oh, you missed a step. This drops. Oopsie. Oh, whatever. I don't really care. I can't find my graphing calculator. I'm dead.